Hello and welcome to another edition of Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah and you're watching Diaspora Network Television. Today we're delighted to welcome to the studio a great friend of mine, a sister visiting from the United States. But guess what, as we always do, you're not going to meet her until you get to listen to the jangle. So stay tuned for the jangle. In today's jangle, I want to keep it simple. I just want to give a thumbs up to Time Magazine. For 2022, Time Magazine selected President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, as the Person of the Year. And who could argue that? This is a guy that was just a regular comedian, ran for president, won, and then got thrusted into the international scene, and he has not disappointed. The way this guy has stood up to the bully from Moscow, it's been an inspiration to everyone. So I just want to use today's jangle to say, Time Magazine, bravo. This is one selection that I don't think you will find any opposition whatsoever. So congratulations to the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Stay tuned and we'll meet my guests.
What's cool, fresh and trendy with a new look? Makes you feel real good, that refreshing vibe. Satisfies you right just the way you like. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Ain't gotta do it alone. Specialized makes you glow. Anytime, anywhere. Specialized, feel different. Always think special ice, natural mineral water. Feel different. Think special. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Hello and welcome back. Today we are delighted to be joined by my sister, Dee Hagler. Dee, welcome. Welcome to Diaspora Weekly.
Thank you for having me.
I'm telling you, Dee is, let me give you a little bit of a background, but she'll do the rest, because over here in Diaspora Weekly, we do self-introduction. But I was so amazed to find out that she put her hat in to go up against Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia. But election, hey, somebody's got to prevail. But I want to take the moment and welcome. Welcome to Ghana.
Thank you so much. I'm
Dee,
glad to be here.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Who comes to Ghana for 2 days?
Someone who has a lot to do back in the United States of America.
I'm telling you.
2 days.
So tell us about yourself. I mean, when I try to read about your bio, I'm like, wow, how can you do so much and still not be, that I don't know that you've done so much. So what's kept you busy? So
basically, this is it in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. I started in the political arena when I was really 11, 12 years old. Oh. I worked on my very first campaigns. I'm from the great state of South Carolina originally. Okay, right? Okay. And so I helped someone get elected to school board, the first black in my city. From that, I helped my mother run for office. She became the first black, first woman, first Democrat on city council where we live in South Carolina. And then from there, I was, in undergraduate, I majored in political science at South Carolina State University. There I met my husband, David Hagler. We have 4 children. He currently is a colonel in the United States Army. And so he's doing great things. And so our children range in age from 21 to 31. But I ran for office. Before I ran for office, let me back up. I worked in the parole board system. I was the chair of the parole board in South Carolina prior to me working on my PhD in political science at Clark Atlanta University. But we moved after undergraduate to Kentucky. We both got our masters in public administration together. Then I went to seminary and got a master's of divinity in seminary.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so most people call me Madam Secretary, even though I didn't win Secretary of State, or they call me the Queen Bee.
Okay.
But so my full name is Dorothea Dawkins Hagler, but everyone calls me D. And I just spent a lot of time just trying to do the work that God has called me to do in a nutshell.
You got it. And I noticed you went to Clark Atlanta. Okay. All right. So tell me, Spelman, Clark Atlanta, are you guys rivals? Or
no,
is
not at all. So in the AU Center, which we call the AU Center, Atlanta University Center, you have Spelman, you have Morehouse, Clark Atlanta, which merged together because you had Clark College and Atlanta University, and those two merged together made Clark Atlanta. And then you have Morris Brown University, who just received their accreditation back after 20 years. Yay out to Morris Brown. And then you have Morehouse School of Medicine, which my daughter graduated from last year, so she's a medical doctor, my eldest daughter. Okay. So that is the AU Center. Everyone in the AU Center has nothing but love for each other in the AU Center.
Well, so we heard if the Morehouse guys go with the Spelman girls, right? All right. What's those dynamics? So Clark Atlanta is what? Is it girls or?
It's co-ed.
It's co-ed. Okay.
It's co-ed.
All right.
So you may have a Clark Atlanta University student with a Morehouse person or a Clark person, depending on their gender.
Okay.
And back in the day, it was Morris Brown when it was at the top of its game before it before it lost its accreditation. But now it's back.
Right.
And so now you're going to see even more intermingling with all of those that are in the Atlanta.
ATL is smoking hot.
It is.
What is cooking there that the rest of us don't know?
It is the best place to be. Atlanta influences everything. Everything comes through Atlanta. So it doesn't matter whether you have professional sports teams, whether you have the hip hop or music industry, whether you have the film industry now with Tyler Perry and everyone else coming, or whether you just have the Fortune 500 companies, or it is a mecca for historically black colleges and universities, as well as the Georgia State and the Georgia Tech, the Kennesaw State. So you know what it is, and the Civil Rights Movement. Let's not forget that the Civil Rights Movement. That is Atlanta.
Yes.
So everything, Atlanta influences everything, and we just saved America again last night by re-electing my friend, Senator Raphael Warnock, back to
pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Yes.
And when I went there, let me tell you, that place is, I don't even know how to describe. You tell us. Tell
it is magnificent. And so I'm so proud of him being a Southern boy, right from Savannah, Georgia. Lived in the projects, lived in low-income housing, had a humble beginning, and now he has rose to be the leader of our party in Georgia. I mean, I am so proud of him. He's another Morehouse man as well.
Oh, he went to Morehouse.
He went to Morehouse.
Okay.
And I'm laughing because my youngest son now is at Morehouse. He'll be graduating in May. And then my oldest daughter graduated from Spelman as well. So I was just thinking about what you were saying. So everybody is like a big, entire Atlanta family.
So where does Emory fit in all this?
Oh, I forgot about Emory. So Emory fits in. I said Georgia State, Georgia Tech. But Emory is right there too. It's a leader as well. You have the Emory Law School, you have the Emory Medical School. Well, we try to promote Morehouse School of Medicine because it is the premier, eminent medical school for African Americans.
Okay. All right. So the way you describe Atlanta, there has to be a direct connection to Ghana. Is that what brought you here?
No.
Okay.
But Atlanta has a strong international presence. So whether it's Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, South Africa, but Ghana does have a strong hold in Atlanta. But what brought me here is I do a lot of work for African Leadership Magazine, the African Leadership Organization, and the Center for Economic Leadership and Development. And so they host conferences around the world. As a matter of fact, they highlighted your current president, your former president, most of the presidents, they highlight them. They're kind of like the Forbes of America, like Forbes, Times combined of Africa. And so they were holding an energy, oil and gas awards program here on Monday night, and I was one of the speakers. So I flew in to do that, and I'm on my way back out.
And that's where I say time out. You're coming to Ghana, and you plan to be here for 2 days.
Yes.
Okay. Whatever is happening there, can we make the phone call right now and tell them you're not coming?
I've got to get back. I've got to get back because my youngest daughter is graduating from college on this Saturday with a Bachelor's of Art in Film Production.
Oh,
so
wow.
She said she's going to be the next, not Tyler Perry. She said she's going to be the Hannah Hagler, and everyone's going to know her name. And so I want y'all to be looking out for her. Yeah,
got to be there.
I got to be there.
So what's been like? I was going to ask you what you experienced in Ghana, but 2 days, I don't know if you've seen much.
You know, I have. You know, so I was in Ghana last year as well. And the year before. So last year, my experience in Ghana, I got to go to the Cape. I got to go to the slave castles.
Okay.
So I did a more tourism stuff the last time that I came.
Okay.
I enjoy the people, the food. Now, don't get me wrong. Since I've gotten here, I've gone to several restaurants because I love the food here. I love jollof rice. You know, and it's a fight now because Nigeria always says they have the best jollof rice, and Ghanaians say they have the best jollof rice. And
well, since you brought it up, you have to vote.
I'm gonna say it's still a tie, but you know it's good. It's still good. It's still good. I mean, I love it, and so I just love everything about the country. And then you know your President Otto, he was in Atlanta last year in December for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. We honored him. I do a lot of their international work, and he received our very first international award. This year we gave it to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, but this is what we did last year in Atlanta.
You know, every time you ask a politician to vote, they're going to cast a safe vote. Your vote for jollof rice, was that a safe vote, or because I know you're gonna deal with some Nigerians, you don't want to catch a flag from them?
That was a safe vote. That was the politically expedient vote. But the truth is, the jollof rice in Nigeria and in Ghana are both good. See, other countries say that their jollof rice is good too, but they don't hold, you know, a candle to those two countries.
There you go. There you go.
That's my story, and I'm sticking with
it.
Yeah,
that's your story. I'm sticking with it. That's my girl. All right. So now, I was going to ask you, Ghana has a lot of appeal right now in the diaspora.
It does.
What is it?
We love it. So, you know, when you are from America, born in America, even though you are the descendant of slaves, you want to find some type of way to reconnect to the continent, to the motherland. And so when this whole entire return to Ghana, you know, the entire
year of the return
came about, people were flocking in droves, trying to just come back to see what it was all about and to see if maybe their roots was there. Because for those of us in the diaspora, especially in the United States, we can't trace back our lineage past several generations because you know, once you arrived on the shores of America, families were separated, people were separated, and they went all over. And so it was very hard to keep the history of who you belong to and where you came from. So very few people can do it. So now people just kind of grasp on and want to participate in your return. And then you had Afrocello here, which ran everybody in America crazy. You know, they were like, we want to go to Afrocello because Beyonce is there and all of that year. So it was like a large production.
The Afrocello is like a drug now.
It's like a drug. People, my friends, all of my friends want to come to Afrocello. They're like, D, you're going to stay there until through December through the year? I was like, absolutely not. Yeah. I got to go home. But I love it here. And I'm glad people are starting to appreciate Africa for what it is, to realize that they can come back home wherever that home is. So their first stop, even if it's Ghana, it's a good stop. I myself, when I first came to Africa in 2006, I was actually coming for the inauguration of Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf
in Liberia.
But I stopped here first because I wanted my very first stop to be in Ghana, stayed, it's funny, 2 days in Ghana, and then I went on to the inauguration. I just thought about that. So I'm good for 2 days in Ghana.
Okay.
So I stayed 2 days
before you
and went on over.
Well, why was it so important that your first step on the continent being
Because
Ghana?
I had heard more about Ghana than any of the other places in Africa at that point. And some of my different professors that I had over the years, you know, they were Ghanaian, and I just like, that's gonna be my stop.
Okay.
And when I got off the plane, that heat hit me, and it wasn't a heat that I was accustomed to, but I also felt the presence that I was at home.
Yeah.
Of my ancestors, so I felt I'm home. And so,
see, those of us, we born and raised in Ghana, I will never know what it's like when I land in Ghana. What's it really like for someone like you reconnecting to the continent for the first time?
it feels like the missing piece is there. It feels like God has brought us full circle so you can come back to the place, or at least to the continent from which you originated. So it's, you know you're home. But for many of us in America, we know we come from Africa, but we may not know Africa where. It could be Sierra Leone, it could be Ghana, it could be Nigeria, it could be, DRC or Togo, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Unless you do your ancestry. And even then, it can always pinpoint where you're from. So that feeling is like, you finally feel like, it's kind of like, this is home, and you know it because it's something within us that just lets us know this is it.
Yeah.
You're home.
Have you done yours? The
I have
ancestry?
done my ancestry. So mine is, complex. I have more DRC, more Congo, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. It's all tied. So I'm like, I don't even know what that means. So I don't know if one of my, great-great-grandparents is from the Congo, and then the other ones are from Nigeria, but it's kind of Togo. It's
I spoke to a sister who also lives in Atlanta. Her name Gayla Ferry.
I know Gayla.
Gayla, yeah.
I know Gayla.
Gayla, yeah.
Look at that.
Yes, we spoke, and she is of the opinion that, like someone like you, with different countries, your ancestry came back from. You should be able to have access to citizenship in those countries. What's your take?
I agree. So I really think that because of what the atrocities of slavery, and us really having no real home of our own, whichever way our ancestry shows up, those countries should afford dual citizenship. Because I honestly don't believe that it's okay for Africans to come to America and get dual citizenship and not have to give up their citizenship, but we can't come do it here.
Especially when you're actually rooted from here.
I don't like it. But what I do like is what Sierra Leone is doing. They're like, if you have percentage of blood that belongs to Sierra Leone, we're going to give you your dual citizenship.
Okay.
So I think that the other countries need to follow suit.
So the next question, because the ancestry, it gives you a variety of countries, not just one. Question is, should you have access to all of them, or should you choose one?
I think you should have access to at least 2 or 3 because of our lineage. Your paternal family may be one, and your maternal family might be something else based on what happened to you. Like many of you, like let's say if your father was from Nigeria but your mother was from Ghana, you'd be able to have both.
Right.
So I think whichever ones are at the top, you should be able to figure out.
Right. Well, we're going to go on a quick break, but before we do, the final question is, I used to be in restaurants back in the States, and I'm used to, when someone comes to your restaurant, you want to find out what the experience is. If I gave you checklists of what you experience, you've come to Ghana, this is your 3rd trip, right? What's the experience like?
I would say that I love the people, and it's easy, breezy. When I go to other countries, well, let's say for instance Nigeria, the hustle and bustle, it's a lot. So, but when you come to Ghana, it's like you're coming home, you're just relaxing, and the people are genuine, and it's not a lot of pretentious things going on. It's just welcoming.
What should we work on?
I think infrastructure needs a little bit more work. But overall, I think that the year of the return really has put Ghana on the map.
Very good. Dee Hagler, the sister from ATL. We're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll dive into other area. We're going back to, I'm taking you back to Georgia.
Okay.
This is Diaspora Weekly. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What's cool, fresh and trendy with a new look? Makes you feel real good, that refreshing vibe. Satisfies you right just the way you like. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Ain't gotta do it alone. Specialized makes you glow. Anytime, anywhere. Specialized feel different. Always think specialized. Special ice, natural mineral water. Feel different. Think special. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Welcome back to our continued conversation with my sister Dee Hagler. And your maiden name is Dawkins, right?
It's Dawkins. And actually, my name is hyphenated. So
Hyphen.
it's D. Dawkins,
Dawkins.
D-A-W-K,
Okay.
I-N-S hyphen H-A-I-G-L-E-R.
Got it. So-
But because people do, most people say D. Hagler, even though it's D. Dawkins Hagler, because it's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot.
DDH.
DDH.
There you go.
Which is the name of my company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of my companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
DDH. Very
DDH.
good. There is a black resurgence in the United States. Have you noticed it?
Yes. So when you so black has always been to me popular and in, but now the world is starting to see that we are worthy and that there is value. However, there are those who don't want us to really enjoy all that America has to offer. And we've come a long way because you all never had to experience in Africa, even in the midst of apartheid and colonization, you never had to be told that you weren't human. You may have been oppressed, but even in our Constitution, we were codified as 3/5 of a person.
3/5 of a person.
So you have to understand, we've had to try to overcome all of that, and we still are dealing with a system that perpetuated that type of oppression of one group of people.
It's interesting you put in the context of colonialism because one of the problems that I've personally had is that when we're having discussions in America, African Americans, it's almost like you don't have the right to complain about racism, but we have the right to dump all our problems on colonialism when the white man has been gone for 60 years. How does that make you feel?
Okay, so you have to understand both are equally bad. So I'm not going to try to say one is not worse than the other. But all of the wealth that was built in America was built off the backs initially of slaves who were 3/5 of a person. So that generational wealth that went to those families and then their children's children allowed them to take their seats and place in America. So that structure and that wealth structure is there regardless of if slavery is no longer there. The remnants is there because they had the foundation, because each family was able to pass down an inheritance to their children, which black people in America did not get to do. Plus we didn't even know who we were, because even when we tried to start families, even during slavery, we weren't allowed to. It was illegal. And then they got any day could snatch you from your children, from the parents of husbands. You couldn't even get married, so there was no husband and wife, but even those unions, and send you off wherever. So we never were given the opportunity to build wealth like other groups.
Yeah, and what's worse about it, if you, during the slavery era, if you created something, you were 3/5 of a person. You had no right to own anything. So your creation belonged to your owner.
Of the white man, yeah.
So can you imagine how many inventions by black people
It was so many.
that the original inventor may not have gotten the credit for, but his owner did. Wow. All right. Well,
it's deep, but I think when people hear it, when you really break it down, and they say, but why do you want reparations? Why can't we come to this country like a lot of Africans come to America? Say, we come to this country and we're able to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps. But when you look at a system, so we're talking about something that was codified. We're talking about an actual governmental system that was put in place to oppress one group of people. It is very hard to play catch up, and this is why we have such a large gap, a wealth gap in America, because even when some people come to America from other places, other countries, they're still given certain concessions that black people in America still cannot get.
Yeah, and the biggest one of all, growing up in Ghana, the president was black. I saw him on TV. The pilot was black. Professor was black. Everybody who was anybody was black. So with that mindset, I enter America with the mindset that, well, I can be anything I want to be. You did not have that. Until Obama came, you could not find a black kid who would respond, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a president.
Correct.
It never existed.
Correct.
And sometimes do we undersell the magnitude of that paradigm?
We do. We do. And you have to understand, even when prior to him becoming the president, he was U.S. Senator, and at that time when he went to the United States Senate, he was the only African American in the United States Senate because he took the seat of Carol Moseley Braun, who was the first African American since Reconstruction, to go to the Senate. So since that time, we're talking about all these years later, we have still only had 6 black people serve in the Senate, and most of those have been in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, really after Obama, yes, because you had
Booker.
Tim
Scott's been there for a while.
Tim Scott's been there about 6. Well, this is he's getting ready to be. He just got elected for his 2nd term.
Yeah. Really? Okay.
And then you had, Kamala Harris. Vice President
right.
Kamala Harris.
Right. And now you got Raphael.
And that's it.
Right. Now you got
So we're talking. They didn't even see a black person in that type of leadership role, even in the United States Senate. And now for the first time, with Representative Hakeem Jeffries out of New York, we finally have a leader, a black person's leader of one of the major parties.
Yeah.
So that in itself is just awesome. I mean, the fact that we could maybe even have a black Speaker of the House if the Democrats get the House back.
Yeah.
In Hakeem Jeffries, that would be huge.
That was huge. Yeah. So how do we put it together? I mean, we're talking about African Americans, and they seem to be, every time we meet, they seem to be that big elephant in the room. How do we put it together? How do we work more closely together? Because some of us still believe that perhaps the missing link between Africa and where we need to be is her sons and daughters who live outside the continent, whether historically or by immigration. How do we put it together as a people?
And so first of all, we have to have the will to want to do it and the desire. And so one of the things I've been talking about for probably about 15 years is how the daughters and sons of Africa have to consciously and vehemently work together to get it done. So we can't be about egos, because the West did a great job of dividing us. And even though most of us did not come here initially, not this new wave that's coming from Africa now, but initially, not of our own volition, not of our own will, we have to learn that we are not each other's competition or enemy, but we are each other's brothers and sisters, because we look alike. We may not know where we come from, but we know. When I see you, I see a lot of my family members. I'm telling you, so I've got to really figure out why they said Nigeria and Congo, Togo, because you look like people that I know. You look like my uncles. So when you see that and you know that, you do better. And so we have to consciously work to economically change the dynamic. So that's one of the things that I actually talked about Monday night when I was giving my remarks. I said that we need to make sure that the Fortune 500 companies do right by Africa by way of those of us in the diaspora. So we know that there's oil in certain countries, or there's, all these natural resources. We need to make sure that those on the continent of Africa start partnering with those in America, and then we make the Fortune 500 companies do right by all of us all the way around. Because if we ever link up black people in America, well, anywhere in the diaspora, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Cuba, Haiti, Dominican, because if you look at the numbers, all of us were just a boat ride, drop off different. So it just so happens the boat dropped my family off
first in Jamestown.
But some people got dropped off, you know, in Guyana. Some people got dropped off, you know, in Cuba. You know,
the same thing. And the
wherever
person,
you were dropped off.
The person got dropped off in Guyana, far south as Colombia and all those places.
Yes.
Could be, and the one who got dropped off in Jamestown could be brothers.
That's what I'm saying.
But once they drop you guys off in those times, it's all over.
And that's why we've got to do a conscious effort to bring it all back together. And God gave me that vision, 15 years to start working to bridge the gap, to bring us all together with other like-minded people like yourself. And I promise you, we may not completely see it in our lifetime, but we're going to get it started so that our children's children will be able to say we're all back together.
But my next thing is when I meet you on a person-to-person basis like this, you see how it flows. Would you say the same about at the leadership? Like when you see presidents of African countries, the relation between leaders of the diaspora, like the leader of Barbados or Jeffries, so at that level, do you think their relationship is as fluid as it is on a person-to-person?
It could be. So, for instance, I'm going to give you a good example. Some things were going on in Guyana that I did not like. I contacted my congressperson, who's a friend of mine, Hank Johnson. I said, I need some help. I need you to write some letters. Then another friend got to Hakeem Jeffries, right? And Hakeem said, I'm going to work on this too. So they are helping me, a group of us, to try to change some of the atrocities that are happening to the Africans that are in Guyana. But that was only brought to their attention because there was people like me who was like, I'm going to help y'all bridge this thing so that when we work with other countries, that we're all on the same page, because at the end of the day, we're still all Africans. I told them, so I saw clearly what was happening with that that election in Guyana, that all of the stuff now is going to the Indian Guyanese as opposed to the African Guyanese. There's not even a compromise of how do we make right by the people who were here and have just as large population as we do. But so it has to come from somewhere. So I have been one of the ones who's been pushing the agenda to the top. And that's one of the reasons why I have been working with African Leadership Organization with different heads of state to talk to them here on the continent and link them up with leaders in the United States and abroad so that we can try to get this thing together.
To be honest with you, you are touching on something that's extremely important. Let me hear. DNT, we speak with everybody. I've interviewed with Surinamese and a gentleman from Brazil. See, African Americans, you get the limelight, but our brothers and sisters in the South, in the Caribbean, they're suffering in silence. Nobody hears about their issues. So if you're going to do this, all I can say is count me in.
Okay.
Because let me tell you, how many people know that there are about 112 million blacks in Brazil that nobody knows about?
And they have the largest population. To be honest,
56% of the population.
Out of Africans who were taken from the continent, they have a huge population.
Yes.
And then the United States. But people don't even realize that many black people live.
Yes.
Africans live in Brazil.
Yeah.
Or Colombia.
Yes.
Guyana, Cuba.
All those places.
All of those places.
Yes. And they're suffering in silence. You have Brazil, for example, they make 56% of the population. They are the majority. And yet they never see the light of day when it comes to national leadership. What would it take for us to help our brothers there to move up?
So we have to mobilize, and we have to have these conversations, and we have to have movements just like when the Jews came out of the Holocaust. It has always been put on a limelight. We have to say no more. We deserve the same type of respect. Yeah. Now, granted, what Hitler did to the Jews was atrocious, and it's not like to say, to make light of it because it's bad.
Yeah.
But what happened to black people? We don't even know. See, the Jews know that where they came from, the origin. They know that what happened to them happened in Germany. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And some of the few surrounding people, they know it happened in Germany. They know where they were from.
Right.
We're still dealing with, we don't know who we are.
Yeah.
We just know we're African.
Yeah.
But we don't know who we are.
But why is it that we seem to attract just about everybody? We're the subject of almost everybody's hatred. Where do you think that comes from?
Because they understand the power that is within us. We are, and I know this is going to get me in trouble, but I really believe that God, we're part of God's chosen people, and the assignment, the power that is within us and our DNA is so strong that they know that they have to keep us divided, because they know that if we ever come together, it'll be a force that the world has never seen. So they don't want black people, African people, to come together ever all around the world, because it would change the total dynamics. Yeah. The power structure will change. The world economies will change. And as opposed to people coming and pilfering all these African countries, stealing natural resources, they will be able to use them within their own respective countries to build up their own people. And they know that the people in America, who we do have some of that wherewithal, because we were raised in the West, in an industrialized place that did all of this. They know that we brought our expertise to the continent, and wherever everyone is, that it would be something that the world would not be able to handle. It would not be able to, they would not like it. It would be good for our people, but those who have had power up until now would not like it.
So is that the reason why when Fox News, Tucker Carlson, this replacement theory and all that stuff,
crazy.
If you're 57% of the population and you're worried about being replaced, it seemed to me that the next people in line, the Hispanic community, they're 19% of the United States. Why is it that the focus is not on them? If you're worried about somebody replacing you, you go from 57%, the next group are 19%. You're not worried about them, but you're worried about the 13% replacing you. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense.
It makes sense if you think about when movements are started in this country. It's usually has always been done by young black people. So they know that the civil rights movement, black people, voting rights, black people, they know that when we organize, not only do we organize for our communities, we organize the other ones as well. So they know we won't come to the table and say, we're just coming to the table for black people. We're going to come to the table for Hispanic people, with Asian, Pacific Islanders. We're going to come to the table with, Native Americans. We bring everybody with us, because that is innate in us who we are.
So you challenge the divide and rule agenda.
Yes.
Okay. This is Diaspora Weekly. We're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into a continuing conversation with my sister Dee Dawkins Hagler. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What's cool, fresh and trendy with a new look? Makes you feel real good, that refreshing vibe. Satisfies you right just the way you like. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Ain't gotta do it alone. Specialized makes you flow. Anytime, anywhere. Natural mineral water. Feel different. Think special. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Hello and welcome back to Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah, and we are continuing our conversation with my sister Dee Dawkins Hagler, DDH.
Yes.
we talked about what's happening in the United States. Let's start with Georgia. Are we blue in Georgia or not quite yet?
Not quite yet. I know America and the world wants us to be blue, and we've seen some things happen. And I think because President Biden won Georgia, as well as Senator Raphael Warnock, people just took it that we're blue. But honestly, you know, for federal elections, we are purple, not blue. We have a long way to go because a lot of that is because of gerrymandering. And just the sheer numbers of Republicans doing all of the voter suppression techniques that they've done historically. But we're not blue yet. But I would love for us to be blue, but we're not blue.
In our last segment, we were talking about the repression of black people in the United States. And what do you think will be our fight back? What does it take? I mean, in the past, you had the two approaches. MLK's approach of peaceful change, and then Malcolm X's, you know, I don't know what you call it, armed resistance or whatever, but which is appropriate for today?
And so it just depends on where you are and what you're doing. Maybe a hybrid approach, because there are many times where you need those who have the spirit of a King versus the spirit of a Malcolm X. So let's just talk about Dr. King for a second. So when Dr. King was out doing what he needed to do, you had Ralph Abernathy, Dr. Ralph Abernathy, you had Hosea Williams, you had Andrew Young, you had Jesse Jackson. So now why did I mention that? Because all of their personalities were different. I'm more similar to the Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Hosea Williams, because I'm more of the radical bunch. There, especially Hosea Williams, who was the most radical. He would be the one where they had a situation, he would go in and tear it down. Andy Young, true to who he is, he was the ambassador. He was the one who would go to mediate and try to make it seem better. Ralph Abernathy was just the one with the calm head, and Jesse Jackson was the one like, we got to figure out how we're going to monetize this and make some money. So see, it took all of them to work together to push that civil rights movement to where it is. So we have to do something similar. It's not like an either or, it's an and both. And so with Malcolm X, you know, because I'm from that line too. So I'm from that radical line of the Malcolm X's as well. I believe in by any means necessary. But then you have to have those who have the sentiment of Dr. King.
So it has to be
it has to be some
360
balance, because you need it. Somebody has to play good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
I'm not good at playing good cop. You know, I'm just not good. I'm gonna be the one that's gonna go and tear down systems.
So
I'm gonna be that one.
So what did you think of the brothers and sisters that armed themselves and marched to the KKK headquarters?
So this is what you got to remember. Georgia is the home of the Klan. Remember, Stone Mountain, Georgia, not too far from where I live, is the home of the Klan. So that meant...
Is that where they're headquartered at?
Yes, that was where the headquarters was, Stone Mountain.
Okay.
This is why they have the immortalized Confederate monument, the biggest Confederate monument in the world, is right there in Stone Mountain, because you had the heads. They tried to mimic Mount Rushmore, and what they did was to put the heads of the the Confederate generals on Stone Mountain.
Wow.
So this is why when Dr. King did his speech, he said, you know, I want liberty to ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia, because he knew that was the home of the Klan, which black people were afraid to even go towards Stone Mountain. And where I live now, Lithonia, which is the neighboring city, because you didn't want to get caught with the sun coming down, because they would kill you. Those same people, their children and their children's children are still living in Georgia and permeated throughout the South. And I, for one, knew that they are dangerous. We cannot take it lightly. This is why you see in Charlottesville when they took a car and ran through a crowd, and Trump was like, some of them are okay
fine
people. Who says that? What? They're fine where? They're okay where? To kill us? Okay. So this is why when they had the insurrection, January the 6th, I saw it coming because I do commentating on Fox News, Newsmax, News Nation, wherever the Republicans are. That's where I try to go, because I try to go into their house, in their backyard, and talk to them. So I try to steer away from CNN and MSNBC, because that is
Your comfort zone.
And that's where we go. We've got to get out of what's comfortable for us and talk to them directly. So I knew that they were dangerous, that they would think that something of that magnitude would happen. And I tried to tell people, but they were like, Dee, you're just saying that. No, I'm not just saying that.
We saw it.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not an alarmist. These people are going to try to stop.
And they're telling us it didn't happen. They were peaceful protesters.
Do you understand? Because they're saying that our eyes didn't see what they saw. We saw it with our own eyes. So we saw y'all tearing up the building, climbing through the window, knocking out glass, fighting, beating up the poor Capitol Police officers, duct tape. We saw y'all go trash Nancy Pelosi's office. There was nothing peaceful.
Okay, so explain something to me. Senator Josh Hawley, Missouri. He gave the people thumbs up. 5 minutes later, he was running for his life. And he still cannot denounce it. What's going on with this? Help me understand this.
Because white supremacy, white privilege understands that if they admit what happened, that there will be the erosion of some of their power. And power never concedes power. It never has and it never will. So in order to admit that you all were insurrectionists and was trying to bring the country down would mean that you now have to go back and regroup. But their base is a bunch of white supremacists, many of who are members of the KKK, and they're not going to do that because they know that it is the browning of America right now, and that within the next 15 years, they will no longer be the majority, and they're scared and they don't know what to do.
Okay, but it seemed to me that if you preach one thing, the evangelicals, God, Bible here on that hand and everything.
Lies.
But if you want to tell me that a guy wants to be president and he's openly advocating throwing out the Constitution, this is what binds this country together. But yet, you have people actually defending it.
Because they're crazy with him. And they're criminally insane when I say crazy. So they're okay if, remember, these are people who would do anything to get whatever they want, because most of their ancestors were colonizers. They are kidnappers, rapists, murderers, because they brought most of the black people from.
Oh, wait, time out. Rapists, murderers, I heard that term before.
Yes.
I thought a certain guy came down the escalator and told somebody else were the rapists and murderers.
They are.
Okay.
They are. But you think about how they kidnapped us. Now, all of them kidnapped, but most of us were kidnapped. We were raped. We were murdered if we didn't do, maimed. So violence is in the very fabric of America. They started on violence, they operate through violence, and they will do anything to maintain the status quo, to maintain their power, even if it means going and burning down the entire country.
You say you came
here. The Civil War.
You've been to the slave dungeons. Mm-hmm. You've seen where the slaves were kept. On top of it, what was there? You
saw
a church.
A church, and then I was like, so they prayed to their God, because it has to be their God. It can't be our God, because our God would not just condone that behavior. You had the church, they were up in luxury, and then they sat down and watched us suffer. These are the same people who said, you use the Bible and said slaves obey your masters. These are the same people who try to justify their actions, and they have no moral authority, especially after this race in Georgia between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock, Senator Warnock. How can you have moral authority when you are promoting the person who
paid for abortion.
Paid for abortions and lied about it. Not that you paid for them, but that you lied and said you did not. Said sleeping with all these women while you're married, because this is not, America's not Africa. You're supposed to have one wife, right, at one time in America, because we were monogamous.
I mean,
you have that. You tried to kill your wife. You had guns to the woman's head. Your son came on and told everybody how they had to run all through America from you because you trying to kill him and kill his mama. I mean, you lied about your jobs. You lied about who you hired. You're a liar. You're an adulterer. You're, I mean, what?
So okay. So all right, now I'm confused. In that race, you had Raphael Warner, a pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And then you have the person who just described. Which of the two had the evangelical support?
The one I just talked about, Herschel. That's why I said they have no more authority. How could you have it? This is what you all promoted and condoned. This is the person. And Donald Trump, who had, just would go have so many different wives and couldn't stay with any of them and treated them all bad. Who's always lying, nothing but a hustler.
Okay.
I mean, this is who the evangelical support.
So now, when you look
A
in a
farce.
crystal glass, what do you see? America, 10, 20, 50 years from now, what do you see?
I see
You saw January 6th. Nobody
I saw
else believed
January
you.
6th.
So now look into that glass. Tell me what you see.
If we're not careful, we will see some type of mini repeat of the Civil War. Because I saw probably about 10 years ago, there was legislation that was moving around this country. Because the one thing I noticed about Republicans, they're very organized, and when they move in one state, they move in other states.
Yeah.
But there was legislation to secede from the Union. And I was like, what in the world? So they want to secede from the Union. They wanted to take our money back to the gold standard in the South. And they were doing all of that in an effort to try to...
At the time you were in the
I was in the
Georgia
House-
State legislature.
I was in the Georgia State
and you
legislature.
actually saw
I
legislation
saw the
introduced
legislation. Yes,
to
and
secede.
you can all look it up. If you ever go
So it's
to
not just
Georgia,
some crazy person talking.
Go to Georgia, you can go to Tennessee, go to some of those southern states and type in secede from the Union. And you'll be able to find the legislation they tried to introduce. Like this is not some mythical conversation I'm having. They really want to go back to the old days. That's why that whole MAGA, most people are like, well, what do they mean by make America great again? That's a dog whistle for it. Let's take America back to the days
Where we ran the show.
ran the show, when we had all supremacy, when people were slaves, or when we were in the Jim Crow South. Let's make America great again.
Okay, so then what is wrong with now? Now, okay, America started when whites had all the advantages. Blacks, you were a property. Now we've gotten to the point where there's a semblance. It's still not a level playing field yet, but at least it's getting there. Why would anybody have a problem with that?
Because they don't want to give up their power. So, and it's clear, because the only way that these things can continue is if they vote for them and they perpetuate them. Hillary Clinton would have been the president if white women had voted for her. Why didn't white women vote for her? Because at the end of the day, these white women knew they needed to stand beside their white husbands who gave them privilege. And privilege always ends at the end of the day.
Wow. And so you're worried.
And I'm worried because because if they would go to such extreme to do January the 6th, if they run people down in crowds, if they are taking guns, and most of the mass shootings we have in America are from white boys, white men who they keep trying to say, well, maybe they were disturbed. Well, this is the culture you've created. So what is to stop them from enlarging their reach? Because every day in America, it seems like we have some type of mass shooting.
Yeah.
And we're the only industrialized nation in the world that has that type of violence.
So what would it take to avert it? What you're worried about?
It's going to take generations. This generation is going to have to take a whole nother generation to come. Some people are going to have to really die out. I hate to say it like that, but some people are going to have to die out, and people are going to have to be born for us to get rid of the old and bring in the new.
So the way you describe MAGA now, how do you feel when blacks support the MAGA agenda?
You know what? Some people suffer from cognitive dissonance. Like, that just came to me. So sometimes people want to separate from their reality as they know it. Cognitively, they should know that this is not good, but for whatever reason, they've changed the narrative within their own head to say this could not be, and then they go along with it. It's almost like a Stockholm syndrome, that even though you were oppressed, you began to feel sympathy or empathy for the one who has oppressed you. This is how women stay in abusive relationships, because no matter, even when they know this might not be what I need to do, the abuse does not overshadow your need to be connected to this. And so that unresolved trauma that black people are facing from slavery will allow them to go and say, let me.
Did you just describe Kanye West?
Yes, that boy is crazy. He's a musical genius that is absolutely crazy.
Okay. My sister, I have to thank you for your time. Welcome. It's so bad that you came and you spent only 2 days in Ghana, but you'll be back.
I'll be back.
All right.
This is my second home.
There you go. There you go.
I'll be back.
Welcome. Thank you for appearing Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah, and we had a great conversation with D. Dawkins Hagler. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching.
Long live Ghana, long live the baby mine. One time. So come go to Jenny Mumbai. So come for we are fire. I'm ready to you. Ghana, I'm to you. When me free Ghana, me man penny a wodi kanu. Your friend no Dr. Nkrumah. Me mini say na woni my dear na boy your mama. I send back up baby na me ya eya me nwanwa. Here ono na je fan hu die. Ye na raya sasin ye eya body de ma ye. Moja na no hie gunya de to ho ma ye. Edru me ne wo do say ye be ye bi ato aso tie. Ghana de be ye me ne wa. Ye me ni udi a. Na me ye me ni udi a. Wo so no bi anya bi o. And I'm possessed every Obiana war and any Jana into young physical tons of from them friend come na to Jomon come for you who say a kind of no there be and so did video some you know they Ghana city Obia baby and not to any greedy I bet Janka BT baby and I will go to Korea and Kobini Libya will never when I was so young. Rene who see my back when you bring to San Ancutia can dance so call parliament I can and I say I want to make a power man for Jankan Koya Bawana as a master baby a woman from Goshabun some tower and yes I put power when one could try a bank. Really, me and Sasa, and your banner, your Casagua, me, then you don't be found yet.